Imago Dei. When I say Imago, you say Dei. Imago, Imago, Imago. Ah, such warm and fuzzy feelings in an afternoon of a conference full of Christians. Are we here in a holy huddle, just being happy to tout the truth that we know and understand in our own little circles? I think the problem is when we actually do that, we don't understand that the Imago Dei is under attack right now as we speak in three specific ways, and that we're not really paying attention. And today I want to give you some apparatus, some language, some shared understandings that we can start to talk about these attacks on the Imago Dei, so that by the end of this, you will start to have those conversations in your own spheres of influence. Now, in order to do that, I think we have to roll back the clock, back to November 2022. I think everyone in this room knows exactly what happened in November that changed every single thing about what we do and the purpose of why you came here to San Jose, SFO, drove, walked, rode a bike to get to this room, right? And what is that? ChatGPT launched and completely stunned the world. It wasn't just the most successful SaaS product launch, right? With how many? 1 million users in the first 5 days? 100 million users in the first 60 days? This was something else. It was indicative of an inflection point in our community, in our culture, in our society, in our globe. It was so much so that even after that 60 days, people scrambled in the industry within the first 90 days to convene right here on Pier 27, not that far from here. I think many of you might know it on the San Francisco Harbor. And they filled that room. They scrambled in less than 90 days from when ChatGPT launched. And it was a sold out crowd. Industry leaders, creators of generative AI needed to get together and understand what is going on. It was seismic. It was something that I understood personally, that this is a once in a lifetime experience. And so what did I do? I had to hop on a plane, fly over the Golden Gate Bridge, and land myself, and I needed to be in the room in the first generative AI conference that was held. OpenAI, Stability AI, Microsoft, all the leaders were in the rooms. The people that were controlling and creating this new future for us were talking to each other and arguing on panels and this and that about what is the future that we have to hold. They had all these opinions on when we're gonna go beyond multimodal AGI, superintelligence, what is in the future? That was the question that all of these technologists had in the room. And yet, on the 6-hour plane ride back to Jersey and beyond, the 3 years since then, there's been a question that has haunted me, and that is, what happens when everything they predict about AI becomes true? I think that is the question that we have to ask right here, right today. And it's been this journey of the last 3 years. I've built a community of thousands of pastors and church leaders to discuss this stuff. I've crisscrossed the country to go to different workshops and seminars and been in the rooms of discussions of what's actually happening. And the culmination of that has been some really good frameworks that I think I want to share with you, again, to give you some shared language and understanding and apparatus of things that you can touch and hold on so that we can start to talk about this stuff as a community. So we have to talk about these 3 disruptions. I believe AI is bringing these 3 disruptions to our society and culture today. Those disruptions will bring with them complete losses of things that we just assumed were part of life. And those losses bring us to these crises that are set up that the secular society and culture, our world, has to reckon with. But more importantly, us as believers, as Christians, as people following Jesus Christ, we must understand them and we cannot ignore them. And I want to explain to you why. The number 1 disruption is about jobs. Nothing new, everyone knows about that. But it's not just about unemployment, right? We know that jobs are not the only thing that's disappearing. Wholesale vocations are being dismantled. That leads to a what? A loss of identity, a search for significance. And at the end of the day, we will have mass crises in terms of the search for meaning. The second disruption that we have to talk about is the disruption of truth. Deep fake, algorithms, synthetic media, that all removes the ability to authenticate anything. When that happens, we know what happens. It's happening right under our noses. There's a loss of trust, a breakdown of consensus. And at the end of the day, this is the thing that I think that most church leaders are not thinking about, Christians are not thinking about. We are gonna go into a crisis of reality if we are not there already today. Third disruption is one of relationships. The church, Christians, we are in the business of relationships. We should be paying attention to this right now. Because relationships with chatbots and AI companions and AI therapists are doing something that John Lennox has said, the simulation of things. And at the end of the day, what it is doing technically is removing empathy. It is removing our tolerance for friction. It is normalizing always on, available, sycophantic, you are right type of relationships. And that at the end of the day, makes it harder to form community where formation and discipleship happen. You lose the core ingredient, which is a loss of intimacy. And when that happens, the inevitable is going to come, and that is a crisis of belonging. You have three major catastrophic disruptions that are feeding these three major crises. What's gonna happen? Who has the answer? Is it government? They're still fighting about the regulations from the technology 20 years ago. Is it corporate big business? They started this disruption to begin with. Is it civic organizations? They don't have the depth, the funding, the actual understanding of how to actually respond to these crises. I do think, though, there's one entity, one institution in our public square that has the appropriate response to all three crises. And the answer is something that has been developed not just in the last 3 years, but millennia. And that is the hope of Jesus Christ's church. Amen, amen. And that's good news, right? Because we are talking about what? The Imago Dei. And in the last 3 years, what I've done is gone deep into understanding what is the irreducible parts of the Imago Dei that feed and will be the antidote to these three crises. And out of that, you will then quickly understand that the irreducible part of us, finding out what the human in humanity is, to become the irreplaceable human, is a set of 9 specific practices. Now, let me go back to relationships of what's actually happening. Where are we today? Did you know that 72% of US teens have already used AI companions? 83% of Gen Z believe that they can have a meaningful bond with AI, that is actually possible. And guess what? It's not just the young people. 1/3 of Americans have already had a romantic interchange or exchange or some sort of experience, I don't even know what you call it, with AI. 80% of Gen Z, when surveyed, think that they have the possibility of marrying an AI in the future if it actually becomes real. This generation is learning what intimacy feels like from something that cannot love them back. And when that happens, we know and we can predict that there is this huge vacuum of need that you and I, we all can recognize. But what's interesting is the human condition and how it responds. Right now, back on the East Coast by where I live in New York City, there's an experiment that's happening in real time. That vacuum of need is being sought after to be solved by Gen Z by going to the church. How ironic is that? We have tons of Gen Z showing up for Friday night mass. Each of the dioceses are having problems because they've never had this many converts coming to request to be part of the church. They are coming, as the headline says, they want truth, they want beauty, and they want to know what real love is. And if you go back to the 3 ancient pillars that support this Imago Dei that we have been looking at, koinonia is one of those concepts that is the antidote to this disruption of relationships. And in those practices, there's things that I believe we have forgotten as a church. We have forgotten as Christians in our secular society, in our behavior, in our practices with each other, that we must double down on. We must talk about, we must bring about. We cannot assume that our people, and our people means not just people in our congregation, in our pews, but the people in our zip codes and the people that we're called to actually minister and reach, is 3 specific practices. The first one is understanding this idea that covenant is more important than convenience. We have lost the understanding that you must choose to weave and intertwine your life with specific people on purpose. Is that actually being practiced in your local church? Let's be real. The second practice is understanding that we must become available, not based on our own agenda, but for the real needs and the relationship development of others, right? That there is a paradigm shift that we must actually enforce, enact, support, and actually indoctrinate to our people that says hospitality is actually a spiritual act. It's not just a calendar invite system like, hey, I want to have lunch with you, and it takes like 15 weeks to actually find an open calendar day, right? We must become available. We must be able to be available in order for real koinonia to happen. The third specific one is the idea that we must be committed. We must stay with the relationship. We must weather out the storm, highs and lows, despite any sacrifice of our own comfort. Staying through every season is the thing that we must actually do, that AI will never be able to do because there's no cost on their side of being available 24/7, and we as humans understand it. We perceive it, we completely understand it. Culture and society need a very, very specific kind of human today. There's the idea of Vocare, this calling, identity that actually goes beyond just your vocation, but of your soul. This idea of kadosh, this holiness, being set apart to be the actual truth, the stake in the ground for those around you. And koinonia that we've been talking about, you must become a sanctuary for others that AI can never replicate. Because at the end of the day, the specific type of person that we are in need of in this society is someone who understands you were called by the one who made you even before you made anything yourself. That we live in a world that you can deep fake anything now, but your life must be incarnational and be the signal, the stake in the ground of truth of what is real for everybody around you. And that we approach our relationships understanding wholly that we know that friction is not a bug, but a feature of the communities that we set up and stand apart, become the sanctuary of the zip code, of your friends, of your families around you. You see, the world is still searching for a specific kind of human. The good news for you and me, folks, is that the answer was already in the room. My name is Kenny Jahng. Thanks for listening. I hope to continue this conversation with you all.